Let's talk to Sir Malcolm Rifkind, former Defence Secretary. Sir Malcolm, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
May I start with Sue Gray and the shambles that this Labour government seems to have been running for the last 94 or 95 days? I mean, it's almost comical that you appoint a woman to do a job, you give her responsibility to set out the first 100 days of a new government. It all starts with great words of integrity and transparency and, you know, bringing honesty back and a government of service. And look where we are now.
Well, I'm not sure that I want to intrude on private grief, but it's become public ridicule. And, of course, the background is very, very obvious. It was an inappropriate appointment in the first place. She'd been a permanent secretary, a career civil servant. And if you've just been a permanent secretary and you've just done the report on the rather unfortunate way Boris Johnson was behaving during Partygate, then you just do not point somebody like that to head your office without expecting controversy.
Yes. And I mean, not only did he make the appointment in the wrong manner, not only did he upset the people who had worked with him for quite some time, but he then allowed her, it seems, to have kind of free rein inside of Downing Street to run it like some personal private fiefdom. I mean, we understand, for example, and we've never had this confirmed absolutely officially, but one of the people in receipt of gift aid from Lord Wahid Ali was her own son, who's now a Labour MP, as a result of which she supposedly gave Wahid Ali a pass. We still don't know.
I'm not going to. I don't want to comment on that because I just don't know what did or did not happen. But what I do know is that one of the problems that often faces a chief of staff in a prime minister's office is they think they're doing the prime minister's job by making it very difficult for him to be bothered by cabinet colleagues, government colleagues, MPs who need to see him. And there's resentment that then grows that an unelected official is more powerful than members of the cabinet. Well, and that is something which a sensible, sensitive chief of staff should never allow to happen.
Well, exactly right.
Starmer was mistaken in appointing her in the first place.
Well, you see, I wanted to ask this question of an earlier guest, but I'm going to ask it of you because you've sat there in cabinet, you've sat there in Downing Street as power has been handed around to various different people. You know, what makes somebody like Sue Gray even qualified for that job? You know, maybe she was a senior civil servant, but, you know, that's a much bigger job, is it not, to then be put effectively in charge of...
Well, it's a very different job. I mean, if you're a cabinet secretary or a permanent secretary in a department, yes, that is the most powerful civil service job in that department. But if you're running the Prime Minister's office, that, yes, of course, has political connotations. It gives you potentially enormous power. But as Sue Gray, I think herself said, when you start becoming the story itself, then you're not doing your job properly because you're supposed to be invisible so far as the general public are concerned. You're an administrative official running an office. Now, that should not be headline news, and you shouldn't be spending prime breakfast time discussing it with me.
No, quite. But one of the problems is that we haven't been able to get past the freebies, we haven't been able to get past Lord Ali, we haven't been able to get past the Sue Gray ramifications. I mean, and let's face it, Keir Starmer doesn't help himself because whenever he's asked a question he doesn't like, he immediately stiffens, becomes very sort of, you know, tetchy. And let's show you what he said when he was asked a question about Sue Gray back in August in Northern Ireland.
And just on Sue Gray, on her position casement has apparently been causing divisions. Can you offer some clarity on that?
Yeah, that's complete nonsense. So I hope that's clear enough.
So, apparently it was complete nonsense, Malcolm. Not anymore.
Look, you may have overlooked the fact that I do not represent the Labour Party or the government, so I'm not sure I'm the right person to provide objective advice on what is ultimately a political issue, and all my colleagues will be enjoying every moment of it, but I'm not sure the public interest has been that well served by the shambles in the Prime Minister's office.
To be honest, Malcolm, I just quite like playing the clip. I'm just going to keep playing it and playing it and playing it.
Well, not while I'm here, if you don't mind. I've got a meeting to go to.
All right. Well, let me ask you about October the 7th. It's the anniversary of that terrible, terrible day. We've spoken to a survivor already today, and when you think back to what was going on just, you know, 365 days ago, it's so horrific that it's hard to imagine what some of the families must be going through. Have you got a message, perhaps, for how the government's handling this particular
situation? Well, I think the point that I would emphasise is that the fact that it's being reported today that Hamas have been launching rockets at Israel, here we are, you know, a year later, demonstrates this extreme difficulty there is for any government, and this happens to be the Israeli government, in eradicating a terrorist organisation that uses absolutely any means at its disposal, including the killing of its own people by sheltering under them or with them in order to try and stop attacks. That shows the complexity of it. But, you know, when people criticize Israel, and I'm a great critic of Netanyahu. I don't think he's been a good prime minister, very bad prime minister, because there has to be a political solution to this problem, not just a military one. But what I do say, where he is entitled to make the point, I mean, imagine if Britain had been subject to attack by the IRA with missiles launched in the United Kingdom. Would we just simply said, well, that's very sad. We don't want to risk retaliating because innocent people might be hurt. And when America faced 9/11, when they lost a large number of people, a huge number of people in New York because of Al-Qaeda, nobody was surprised, nor nobody basically criticized when they said Al-Qaeda has to be eradicated or bin Laden has to be destroyed. So the proportions are different. Israel's a very small country. Hamas is a small organization in comparison to some. But the nature of the threat to the security of Israel is no different to that faced by the United States, or which could have been faced by the United Kingdom from the IRA if they had been more powerful than they really were.
Indeed. Well, Sir Malcolm, thank you very much for your time. Sir Malcolm Rifkind, there, former Defence Secretary, talking to us about the commemoration of the anniversary of 7th of October.